You know, it was a great trailer. I really liked what I saw, and I want to talk a little bit about, you know, I do want to get to my top favorite Predator movies, and but before I get to that, I do want to talk about this new trailer that I just saw that I think was released yesterday or maybe before that. I don't know, but I found out about it yesterday. Um, and everybody was talking about it, so I finally got around to watching it myself, and I'm impressed. And I can't wait. You know, I really don't have much bad things to say about the trailer so far. Um, I think they got who's the what's her name, the actor that's gonna play um the cyborg. You know, I think her name is Dakota Fanning or something like that. She's definitely the better sister as far as acting goes. I don't know them personally, but I like her more than her sister. Um, I think she's a little bit less weird in my personal opinion. This is my opinion, you know. But this is one of the first um, parts that got my attention, where we could see the different types of skeletons that the predators hunt, and you know, you have over here a T-Rex, which just lets you know that they were hunting, you know, T-Rexes as well. And you got a human skull over here at the left side, and in the middle it seems like a human, but I think it's more like a bigger. He looks bigger than a human. His skull just looks bigger. But anyways, there's a lot of different um skulls here in the middle. It just that looks like an alien from Independence Day, if I'm not mistaken. But the thing is, the lore is that the aliens, I mean, that the predator is a race of people, of aliens that like to go around, you know, testing their skills against other aliens. Um, Another one that got my attention was this one here, which is a picture of all the weapons that the predator is going to use. Now, of course, over there at the far, you could see that shoulder gun that they always have, which is in almost like an automatic, you know, kind of detector. It detects movement and then it shoots, right? So anything that moves, it just immediately shoots at it. So I've always liked that gun that the predators use. I always thought it was cool. Of course, you got the bombs here. We've seen several of these in the movies, in the Predator movies. Some of them are just explosive. Some of them send like spikes and stuff. Some of them have nets that they shoot out. And then this one in the middle here looks like a bow and arrow, you know. And at first I thought it was because predators do have these spears that they use, but then in this next one, that's when the spear comes out. So that means that this other weapon here could be a bow and arrow, which is pretty cool. Which I've never seen predators use anything like that. But who knows? Maybe it's something else. I have no idea. But it's just cool to see the weapons. And of course, I forgot her name. I think it's Dakota Fanning, or because I know it's one of the sisters. But I think this one's the better actor in my opinion, and the better choice. Um, and yeah, I just like that there's going to be, again, it's almost not like an Alien versus Predator thing, right? And there's like a mix between the universes again, which has always been like, it's always been a thing that people have wanted even before the movie even happened. The first Alien versus Predator movie ever happened, you know, Aliens versus Predator has always been a thing. And the main thing that got it all started was in Predator 2, where with with Danny Glover, where at the end you could see, something that looks kind of like an alien skull, a xenomorph, and that's what got the whole, idea started of, maybe aliens versus predators is in the future, or what if, I think a game was made before the actual movie ever came out. So this is gonna be, I think it's gonna take this movie to the next level. Even though it is called Predators, it's not called Alien versus Predators. Just having an element from Aliens in there, you know, I think it's gonna take this movie to the next level, and it's gonna make it to where we're gonna want to see more, of this in the future. Um, this other scene, of course, as well, also got my attention because these are humans. These are Marines, um, and I like it. I do think humans are necessary, at least a little bit. I do want them to get owned by the Predator. I think that's what I want to see. So that's the other thing I like about this movie, that it's based around the Predator. Because the thing is, the Predator, he's such a tough guy, right? And there's such a tough race of people, of aliens or whatever, that go around killing, different types of species that are way stronger than humans. But then they go to Earth and they always get beat up by a human. So, and that's always, bothered the fans, because it's just like, how, like, if it happens once, cool, right? Arnold did it. But then, you get all these other guys doing it as well. And it starts to, the Predator kind of begins to lose his legend, I guess you could say, his badassness, you know. But I like this scene because I can see that these are Marines, and this looks very alien-like. And they kind of send them somewhere to do something, and then they get owned by the Predator or the alien or whatever. That's what I want to happen. Um, but anyways, this is another one that got my attention as well. It's like a plant, and it looks like a carnivorous or poisonous type of plant that might come in handy. If you know anything about Predator movies, there's usually something, nature helps humans do something within the fight within that. Something happens to where they see something in nature, and nature helps the humans win somehow, right? So it happened in Prey, it happened in Predator 1, it happened in Predator 2. um so, like, for example, Predator 1, it was mud, right? Mud helped um Arnold beat, you know, the Predator, which is kind of stupid, doesn't make sense, but it's something. Uh, it is stupid. It's very stupid, actually. It's extremely stupid. Um, but and then in the second one, it was like ice, right? The cool, which makes a little bit more sense, right? But then the fix, the way the Predator fixed it was, you know, it was kind of funny because it was like, I just gotta push this button, and that's it. It's over for you. So, but the thing is, I like those little elements is what makes a Predator movie, And I want to talk about those later as I make my list. But this is one of those elements, which is something from from nature, or from the nature of the planet they're in, is going to somehow help them, or come in handy somewhere down the line in the movie. Another thing that got my attention and everybody's attention was this guy here with the horns. Is the Predator with like horns, which we've seen before. We've always seen this guy either in action figures, in comic books based around Predator, or sometimes even in other movies as well. There's always a guy with a Predator mask and he has horns. but it looks like this time it's gonna be, part of the movie for real, for real. In the back here, he has a motorcycle that kind of floats. I mean, there's another scene in the trailer where you see him driving it. Another thing that I like is this sword. I've always wanted, either to own a sword like this, or to see it in live action, in a live action movie, which is a sword that heats up with some kind of power source that comes from the handle or whatever, or from a sheath, that heats up the metal. And this has always been like a fantasy of mine. I don't know why, and it's actually becoming more and more common in movies and in media. There's a character in Tekken called, I forgot his name, to be honest, but he has a sword like this. He has a samurai sword, that heats up, and he's able to slice through his opponents. So, and this just looks cool to me. It just looks awesome, and I know that it's gonna make for great fight scenes, because both of these guys got these types of swords, kind of like heat swords, similar to like a lightsaber, but it's actually heated up metal or something like that, and you can see the sparks flying off of it as well. So now, in reality, if you heat up metal like that, it becomes tender, it becomes weak, and it bends. So there has to be some type of technology here that's making these swords hold up with the heat. Um, but I mean, that's just getting too nerdy for me. But I'm just saying, it just looks cool, and that's basically all we need here, man. It's just a freaking movie, right? Um, and of course, the last thing people are talking about, of course, is the face and the look of this new Predator. He looks more youthful. He looks smaller. He looks about human size, which is not typical for most Predators. Most Predators, are huge. They're Shaquille O'Neal size. That's the standard size of a Predator is Shaquille, right? In fact, I heard one of the rumors was that Shaquille was, I don't know if that's true or not, but they said that Shaquille O'Neal was the first Predator, or at least the second one. I forget which one it was. Of course, that was just a rumor. I hope, um, or not. I mean, that would be actually pretty badass if Shaquille comes out in the future and he's like, "It was always me, guys. I was a Predator." Um, but yeah, I really like this. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's cool because I like the fact that his little horns, or whatever his little horns that he have, his fangs, they're not protruding out too much. Because what I notice about Predator movies a lot is that they don't really do anything new with the helmets or the look of the Predator. They just go for the wide um, pussy face. And it's like, come on, bro, you keep stretching his face out and it's not really doing anything. Like, I know you wanted to be horror, but there's a difference between horror and shock. And I think just making his mouth bigger and bigger is not really doing anything for me. It's not like the guy from Prey is the same thing. It's like his eyes got so small and then his fangs are extremely huge. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense to me why y'all keep doing this. you know but this one doesn't look like that. It looks like he actually has more of a face. And I know why they're doing that. They're trying to make him more relatable to humans, so that he could be the main character. And is it necessary? Maybe it is necessary. I think the storyline behind this is probably going to have something to do with him being some type of underdog or something like that, because there seems to be some kind of class warfare between the upper class and the lower class of predators. And and I think that's what's gonna happen here. And she it looks like a she, but I think it's a he. um he's gonna have to prove himself in some kind of way. um it doesn't matter if it is a he or she, for me personally. I know there's a lot of people online that kind of hate women. I mean, there is. There really there's like a whole community of people that they just don't want to see women in film at all, because they call it woke. They can't even smell pussy because it's woke, right? So it's crazy out here. Um, but I think he's just a small predator, because I think there is a storyline to where there's this small predator that he's not as big as the rest of them, and he has to prove himself. I forgot what his name was, but yeah, it's pretty cool. The trailer, the music of the trailer was awesome. That's the other thing that I like. I like the whole language in the background, right? All of that stuff was just really did it for me, and I think it's gonna be a good movie. From what I can see right now, it's gonna be a good movie, right? It's gonna be because we've always wanted to see, a predator movie from the perspective of the predator, because they just seem like badasses, you know, and they're always getting beat up by humans, and that's the one thing that I've always thought was kind of weird. When is the predator gonna win? But anyways, moving on to my list, guys. Coming in and my number 5 is Predator 2. Predator 2 is one of these movies that a lot of people don't really like, and it's very, hated. It's not as good as Predator 1, right? It's not as good, but to me, I always enjoyed it. I always laughed at it. There was always funny things going on in the movie. Um, it's a good bad movie. Why? Because there's always interesting things going on. Even the bad things are hilarious to me. There's a scene where some lady is, I think she's in the restroom, or no, she's watching TV, and then his husband is in the restroom and he's knocking on the door, and then Predator runs in there and he starts operating on himself, which is it's an element that all Predator movies should have, is the whole healing factor, the fact that they could heal themselves with, like their own little health kits, um, and that's always an element in Predator movies that sometimes isn't emphasized in Predator movies, and I think that's a main element that makes a good Predator movie, in my opinion, personally. But anyways, he was doing that. He's doing some kind of weird shit in there to heal himself, and then the lady's like, "Who's in there?" or whatever, and you hear all these weird sounds that the Predator's making, and then he just, bursts out, right? And then he gets out, he runs out, and the lady's like scared, and then Danny Glover comes in through the comes in next, and he's like, "Where'd he go? He went that way. I'm a cop." And the lady goes, "I don't think he gives a shit." Is he? Oh man, that's classic '90s right there, man. But yeah, I think it was a good movie. To be honest, I think it's a great movie. You know, um, like I said, it's not better than one, but which one is? There's not really. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you guys, there's not gonna be um in this list. There's not gonna be a Predator movie that's better than Predator One. So, spoiler alert. It's obvious. You should know that, but it's still pretty good, and it's still a movie that I definitely recommend you watch. Um, I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of things in it that I liked, that are memorable. The scene with the Jamaican guy, the voodoo guy in the alley. Um, when he's in the cemetery and then he sees his friend's necklace. All of that shit. Like the Predator literally taunting him and wanting him to chase him, and doing all this crazy shit. It's like all of that stuff is peak to me. Um, in at my number 4 is Predators. Predators. Um, I really enjoyed. A lot of people, say it's either or for a lot of people. It's one of these movies that kind of polarizes people. Some people like it, some people don't. I think it was a great concept. I think it was, a good idea. Predators just grab a bunch of guys and put them in a planet and make them, you know, run away so they could hunt them, right? I think that's what was happening in the movie. I kind of forgot some of it. But it's a great movie. You got a guy from Colombian uh, guerrillero. I don't know how to say that in English. That's the girl, right? She's the Colombian um, guerrillera, which means rebel. She's a rebel. And then you got the cartel guy. You got special forces in the middle. You got the crazy guy over there on the side. But there's a bunch of other guys. You got a Russian guy. You got a psychopath. You got a samurai or a yakuza. There's so many guys that come together. The worst of the worst from Earth, put in this planet so that this one predator guy could hunt them, or a bunch of them could hunt them. There's a lot more that goes on there in the movie, but that's pretty much the basic premise of it. There's a lot of memorable stuff in it, but not as much as Predator 2, which is why I kind of want to switch the two for Predators. But just the concept it in itself was kind of more original than Predator 2. Predator 2 was pretty much just Predator in the city, and I think judging it in that way and coming right after Predator 1, it's not as original in my opinion as the concept of Predators. Um, but anyways, let's move on here to um, my number 3, which is AVP, Aliens versus Predators. This is probably the only Alien versus Predators movie that I liked. In fact, it is. It's the only one. This one was actually good. I don't know what people think about this one as much as some of the other ones, but this one was badass. The Predator guy I actually liked. This was the first time that I got the idea in my brain that we needed a Predator movie that focuses on a main character being the Predator. And this movie was the one that kind of made me realize, yeah, this could happen, because the Predator in this movie was somehow I just liked the guy. He was just awesome. And I remember watching the movie in the movie theaters, and I remember a little girl watching it. She's like, "Oh, I like him," and I was like, "Yeah, I like him too." Right? So, I mean, she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to her mom. But I was just thinking to myself, "Yeah, I like him too. He's awesome. He's one of the best Predator characters in movies, Predator movies." The relationship between the main character, the African American girl character, and Predator was awesome. Um, the whole connection with Atlantis and with the Mayans and the Aztecs and all of this story behind it was really good too. There was just so much in this movie that I liked. Does it have its problems? Yes. Does it have, is it perfect? It's not. Of course, it's not perfect, but it's definitely a movie that I think from all of the Alien versus Predator movies, this is definitely the best one in my opinion. But let's move on here to my number. Let me see. Five. This is my number 2. Prey. Prey is my number 2. Now, there's not a lot I can say about this one because most people have already seen it. I think it has pretty much all of the elements that makes a good Predator movie. The only problem that I have with this movie is that the protagonist is there's not a lot to the protagonist. She's very bland. She's very um there's no motivation to her except for trying to prove herself to her brothers and his tribe members, which is it's selfish and it's kind of bland. There's nothing behind it, mm, at least in my opinion. But there's so many good things in the movie. Another thing that I didn't like was the fact that, like I said, the fangs of the predator were way too big. But that's about it. It's not a bad design with the mask on. I think it's when he takes off his mask, his helmet. that's when you're like, oh, just put it back on, which is usually what you want to say. But I just don't like how they just extend, like that's not what's up. Like just making him bigger like that, like that's not better. And that's the mindset of Americans, unfortunately. It's like make it bigger, and that means it's better. Not necessarily, you know. But this movie is great. There's, like I said, it has all of the elements. It has the healing elements in there. It has the plant, like the nature helping the human. Um, it has all of the elements, survival elements, all of that. All everything that makes a good Predator movie is in Prey. Honorable mentions, of course, is Alien, the first one. This is one of the movies that started the whole horror space thing. Um, awesome movie, right? But of course, Aliens is better, right? And by the way, the reason I'm mentioning Aliens is because it is connected to Predator now, and I think this next movie that's coming up is going to cement that in a big way. Um, but Aliens is one of the rare occasions where a prequel is actually, I mean, a sequel is better than the first one. And Aliens, I think, is the best Aliens movie. You know, bar none. Like, there's no other Aliens movie better than that. And by the way, comparing franchises, Aliens and Predators, I think Predators has a better franchise than Aliens. Aliens, most of the Aliens movies suck. Like, I think, real talk, I think it's Aliens, Prometheus, and that's about, maybe even Alien Covenant, kind of. But those are about the only ones that are you know watchable or even interesting, in any type of way. But with Predator, you have a whole bunch of good ones, including the best one of all, which is my number one, Predator. And there's not much to say about this one. I mean, it's the best. you know, that it, it just has so much going for it. Every character in it has so much personality. Um, Now, of course, do I care about them a lot? Not really. Like a lot of people say that, oh, I care about these characters or whatever. Not really. They're all assholes, and you kind of want to see them die, to be honest with you, including Arnold. Um, but you realize that there's a greater threat than them, which is this alien creature that is hunting them down, and you kind of there's some mystery about it, and that's the main thing the main reason that I don't think there's ever going to be a better Predator movie is because we lost the mystery. Because when I first saw this movie, I'll be honest with you guys, I saw it on TV, you know, and watching the movie, I thought it was just a basic war movie, and I thought it was going to be pretty much like a Hollywood war movie, and it started off that way. But then there's this mystery. What's going on? Something's killing people in a weird way. And that's what is it? And when we find out what it is, now that's a problem because it's an alien. We don't know how to deal with that thing, right? That's the main ingredients in a Predator movie for me personally. Okay, and I know a lot of kids watched it the same way. I don't think a lot of kids, because this is way back in the 80s, I believe. So what was it? I'm trying to figure out when it was released. I think it was 87 or 89. But my point is, guys, like this movie, that's the main element that made this movie great. Is not knowing what the fuck was going on and eventually coming to find out that it was a predator. And we're never gonna get that again. It's like that first high. We're never gonna get that again. Even with this new one, we're not gonna get um, this discovery at the somewhere halfway along the movie that's gonna transcend to the end of the movie and keep us hooked. It's not gonna happen. In fact, people get mad when you do stuff like that. Like if you remember Prometheus, Prometheus tried to do that. Because when I was watching Prometheus, I didn't even know it was an alien movie. And that's why I like Prometheus so much, even more than Covenant. Because they brought that element of surprise and mystery to the movie. Alien Covenant was just a a movie about what's his face, the android, and how great he is, and how, oh, I am so smart, and okay, so what, whatever, we're never gonna see that guy again. So they pretty much just gave him a hand job for the whole movie, and that's it. But the reason Predator 1 was so good is, like I said, is that mystery, that they captured that mystery. um and it's something that is kind of lost in movies. Mysteries ain't necessarily the best genre anymore. And it's because people just want to know everything, because it's so easy for people to know everything now. You just go online and look it up. But anyways, that's gonna be it for today, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later.